All right, so let's go ahead and start with our last session, and then food, and then we go, and I'm gonna go to In-N-Out, because that sounds really good. Okay, I'm an adult, I get to make the lucky decisions now. Okay, so our last session will cover reviewing, and this is just particularly helpful if you want to host your own expo, or if you want to know a little bit more about the process that reviewing does. So it's, I don't know, I think it's helpful. So to go ahead and start things off, reviewing is not judging because FLL is not competitive. So the reviewers are not judges, they're reviewers. And they basically just interact with teams and learn about what the teams discovered, what journey they experienced, what did they do, they just interact with the team to learn more about them. Okay, so the reviewers are all volunteers, they're not paid, so, we can't quite afford them, but, So they're all volunteers, and their job is to listen to the team, describe their show me poster, their research project, their model, what they did, just learn as much about that team as possible, and then provide positive feedback. And they work in pairs, so you will always have reviewer pairs. You'll never have a reviewer by him or herself. It'll always be a pair or more than a pair of reviewers interviewing your team. And that's just for safety reasons, and also because it's easier, it's easier to make a decision when you have someone to bounce it off of. Yes?
How many times today? Are there multiple groups of reviewers?
If
one time
so each team is reviewed once for 10-ish to 15-ish minutes. It's just dependent on the amount of time that the venue has, or the event has. But they are only reviewed once. There might be multiple teams of reviewers so that the reviewing process can get done quicker, but your team will only handle one set of reviewers. Okay, and reviewing is super important because this is probably the first time that these kids will have a captive adult audience and have to present to them ideas and actually give a professional-ish presentation. I mean, this is probably one of the introductory times that they'll be doing that. I mean, they might get that experience in class, but they're presenting to their peers, so it's a little bit different than presenting to adults. So that being said, you might want to practice public speaking skills with the students so that they're not thrown off. And basically, it's just a chance for them to share their accomplishments. Okay, you are reviewed once, and you are asked a lot of questions, so prepare your kids for that. Some of the example questions include, what topic did your team study? How did they choose this topic? What did the model decide to be? How did they come to that conclusion? How did they decide who was going to do what on the model? What is something interesting about the team? What worked best about working together? What do they need to improve on? For the most part, these will be super generic questions, but you want to prepare the kids for everything. For the most part, they should be able to answer these just based on their experiences. But sometimes you have a shy kid and you might want to work with them more so they don't feel uncomfortable or thrown off by that. So reviewing is used to help determine what award the team gets. Like I said earlier, we like to personalize the awards. So having reviewing sessions that are really in-depth helps us to do that, because then we can customize the award for the team and really help them feel special. And the goal is to celebrate each team's unique accomplishments, because each team probably did something that was totally crazy in a good way, and we want to acknowledge that. Okay, so how to prepare for reviewing sessions. Practice, 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 practice. I cannot say this enough, because practice makes somewhat perfect. Now, it's really good to practice with the coaches, but sometimes the kids get really familiar with you, and then when it's somebody else, they kind of freeze up because there's not that familiarity there. So you want to prepare them for that. So I would like to recommend having when a parent comes, the first parent to come to pick up their kid, the team presents to them, and then the kid leaves, But have them present to as many people as possible. You can do this, you can invite your friend over for, I don't know, stuff, and then have them present to them. Yeah?
So last year when I practiced with my team getting ready, it was just with a question format. Does the team need to have a little spiel to introduce their model and topic, or is it just a question answer?
That is completely up to you. So if they want to have a little skit that they introduce themselves, they, I don't know, do something cute and clever, they can do that. If they just want to do question and answers, that's fine too. It's really just dependent on what the team wants to do. They're not, like, I don't tell the reviewers that each team is going to have a skit and it'll be like 5 minutes and they're going to do this and that. It's very tailored to what the team ended up doing, because, I mean, there's a really big age and maturity gap between the 6-year-olds and the 9-year-olds. The 6-year-olds may not be able to go ahead and orchestrate a whole 10-minute skit, whereas the 9-year-olds might have an easier time with that. So just gauge it on their age level. Yeah?
How many, how many questions would you
Anywhere.
Like if I try to divide it up, and say, so let's say if there's 1 or 2 people that are much more vocal or commanding of
Yeah.
attention than others, like, just a way to try to, I mean, obviously you want the whole team to present, but if an adult's asking a question,
Yeah.
I can just see a couple people trying to answer at once. So 10 questions, 5 questions, 6 questions, so in my mind I can think maybe a couple questions each.
So if I were to approximate, I would say anywhere from 5 to 10 questions. And I do tell the reviewers to ask, like, to direct questions to different team members so that it gives them an opportunity to talk. So the reviewers do know that we are trying to get every child to talk.
Okay.
That being said, we're not forcing every child to talk. I know there's some kids that are like super shy, because I was one of them. And if you tried to get me to talk, I would just shut down. I would not talk. But we will try to get them to talk, but the reviewers are prepped that if they're really adamant against not doing that, that's not going to penalize your team, because there's no penalties, because this is Junior FLL and everybody gets an award. But they're going to try to get that child to talk, but they're not going to force it. We don't obviously want to like have them go home in tears because they didn't talk. So it's very like, if one kid doesn't talk, it's fine, but we want them to try to talk. So anywhere from like 5 to 10 questions, and it really just depends on how in-depth the answer that the team gives. I mean, if you have like a really chatty Kathy and she's just like going on and on, or Carson, a boy can talk a lot too, then that might eat up more of the time. And the reviewers aren't going to like stop the kid mid-sentence and be like, oh, 10 minutes are up, okay, bye. They're going to interact with the team so that they feel heard and listened to. But I would really recommend presenting and practicing this. And you can do that with family members, friends. You can do it during like a school rally or to teachers at school, maybe after school. You can do it at youth group. You can set up in the middle of Save Mart and just get people while they're shopping. You can do it in an elevator. You can do it wherever. Okay? I probably would not do it in the middle of Save Mart. You might get kicked out, yes.
I went to Sanger and seen more expos, but with the ones we're setting up, are all the boys in the same room talking at the same time, and the ones?
No, so we're going to try to do it so that each team, while they're being reviewed, the other teams are off doing whatever activity, so that there's not as many distractions. That being said, sometimes there's a noisy environment and you can't exactly do that. So what I recommend is the Michael Phelps method of training. So if you're familiar with how Michael Phelps' coach trained him, he was kind of mean to him. And I'm not saying be mean to your kids, but like he would take his goggles away and make him swim under like absolute worst conditions so that they were prepared for that. Okay? So when you're practicing with your kids, maybe practice with like the TV super loud so that they know how to push through it. Maybe practice with like a lot of distractions or like a dog barking or just different scenarios where they can start to be like, okay, if this is happening, I'm not going to let it derail me. I'm just going to keep going. I do that with my high school students when they're driving. I get pool noodles and I smack it, not in their face, but like a little bit in front of their face. And I wouldn't do that for the little kids, but like maybe like have half of the team present and the other half try to distract the other team and then switch it so that they get used to having pushed through different stuff. Because that's a really critical skill, not just at this level, but in all levels of presenting. I mean, it's part of what comes with the territory. So definitely prepare kids to do that. There's even like a lot of situations where like if something goes wrong, like maybe if you have a script, have them practice without the script so that if they forget, they still have to push through it, you know?
Are they able to have it printed out?
Yeah, they can have it printed out and they can read right off of it if they want. They can memorize it if they want. It's really just dependent on how they want to do that whole thing. And they don't even have to have a script. If they don't want to have a script, they don't have to have a script. They can just answer questions with the reviewers. It is entirely up to you. This program is very much entirely up to you. Yes?
Do you have a slide that goes over what that expo throughout the day would look like? Is that later on in the presentation?
It's not, but I can go over it at the end if you want. Okay. Oh, well, yeah, okay.
So the day of Expo.
Let me see what his question was first, then I'll get back to you. Go ahead.
Core values, is that part of the review process as well?
Yeah, so the judges reviewers are going to ask how the teams used their core values and what they were doing and how maybe they applied them outside of Jr.FLL. So the core values are really just a set of ideals that the team should use to formulate their season. So like they should obviously be gracious professionals throughout the whole time. They should obviously have fun. They should obviously work with their mentors, but be doing most of the work, not their mentors doing all of the work. So it's just a set of guidelines, and they are asked on how they apply to them in and outside of FLL. So if you can help them like by having them come up with examples of how they use the core values. A lot of it is just basic teamwork. That usually covers it. So we're not super concerned about that, but do prep them on that. Yes?
So I was told that they may be given like a project to do and judge them on their teamwork abilities. Is that not done in junior?
That's actually for FLL, and that's for the core values portion of the judging process in FLL, not junior. Yeah. Okay, any other questions about the reviewing before I go into how tournaments or expos are run? No? Okay. So the day of the tournament, it'll be 2 to 4 hours, and we're going to try to err on the shorter side of things. And you will come, usually I recommend coming maybe 30 minutes early. You're going to come, you're going to register with the check-in table, and then you will find wherever you are going to set up, and you will set up your model and your show me poster. And then throughout the day, there will be different activities, and typically, especially if it's being run concurrently with an FLL tournament, I have the coaches sign up for what reviewer slot they want, because sometimes it's hard to know if there's an FLL team with the same coach and a junior FLL team at the same event. So we just have the reviewers sign up for a different time slot. Now other tournaments may be different, so like the FCOE tournament, since it's just Jr.FLL, you'll probably be given a time slot and not be able to trade it. But for the ones that are run concurrently, you will have the option to sign up for it. And that's just so that if you're coaching 2 teams, you obviously can't be in 2 places at once. So we'll give you a little bit of leeway on that. So you will probably be doing the activities that have been prepared by that event until your reviewing time, and then your reviewing time happens, and then after your reviewing time, then you go back to doing the other activities, and then once you finish the activities, we have the award ceremonies, and it's really that simple. Yes?
So the December competition is here,
Yes.
and it says on the site 8 to 6. That's really going to be...
Oh, no, it is probably 4 to...
Well, I don't know if it still does.
It's probably 2 to 6, I believe. The FLL tournament is 8 to 6. It should be. Did Callie get the Eventbrite registration up?
So the Eventbrites are going to go live by Monday, and the register links on our website will work.
Okay, so I can't write. I'm not too late, in other words.
No.
They're not even set up.
No, it's
So
okay.
Monday?
So
Hopefully by
Monday,
Monday.
hopefully.
What's the timing again?
It'll usually, so I'd like to have the award ceremony at the same time as the FLL ceremony. So the award ceremony is at 6, so if you subtract about 4 hours from that, it'll probably start at 2. So you should probably be here by 1:30
So FLL and Jr.FLL are all happening.
concurrently. Yes, at the same time. So that kind of is a 2-on-1 if you have multiple teams. Some coaches like that, some don't. And again, I would like to reiterate that you have the option to host your own expos too. So you can invite other teams and hold a mini expo and then come to another expo. So you can theoretically have expos all the time, expos for days. Like you can do it if you want to. That is an option.
So Stephanie, if someone would like to post on the website the correct times they are for both events, which are the times?
Oh, start at 2, end at 6.
For both the tabletop and champs?
Well, is champs still going to have the award ceremony at 6 or is it at 7?
Award ceremony starts at 5 at champs.
Oh, well then 5 minus 4.
Oh, it's still the same time at champs.
No. So it ends at 6.
It ends at 6.
Yeah, so it's still 2 to 6.
For both events?
Yeah, because the award ceremony happens at the same time.
Okay. I will get that fixed.
Yep. Okay. So, any other questions about expos or reviewing or anything in general? I do not give life advice. Yeah.
For the juniors, when they don't have to bring anything except for their board and their square, they'll have tables there.
They will have tables there. We will probably have power if you need it, but most teams usually don't need power.
And the regular FFL, do they need to bring their own playing table, or do they play on the
So
there?
there are competition tables provided for FLL, but there's also practice tables, and your team can bring a practice table. But if you bring a practice table, it has to be used by everybody. So you can't just like hoard it in the corner, because there's this thing called gracious professionalism. So if you bring it to share, and
So
everybody gets to use it.
There's the season standards manual for First Lego League has a lot of information regarding what's provided, what teams need to bring to events, and specifically the rules regarding practice tables. CBR does provide
1, I think.
1 per 12 teams. So depending on
Yeah.
the event size, there will be either 2 to 4 practice tables at the event this year, provided by CBR. And then that has a whole sign-up process that goes along with it.
Yeah, but if you want to bring like your table, then it will increase the amount of tables there and therefore increase your likelihood of having more time slots at the practice table. But like if you
So-
bring one, you do not get dibs on it,
Okay, well, see, here's,
kind of.
so if they're treated as official practice tables, you don't get dibs on it, but you can bring your own and have it outside. There's just an expectation that if a team comes up and asks you to borrow it,
True.
that you share it.
Yeah.
So the ones that they actually compete on, those ones, the models, do they bring their own models, or they're already there?
They're already there.
This is already there.
They're already there.
Okay.
Because those have to be like regulation.
That the kids are bringing when they go compete for the game is their actual robot.
hmm
Okay.
And their project, if they had any project
No,
materials.
you don't bring your project materials to the robot game.
Oh, I thought she meant like the tournament.
No.
No.
To the game, they bring their robot.
Right, and you
But
can
Yeah.
also
another
bring,
area-
like, if you have maybe a TV tray or something that you want to have to, like,
Oh, yeah,
super helpful.
set the attachments on as an extension of base before they run their, that's helpful too. You can bring that to the robot.
Okay, but none of the little pieces, all the stuff, the models that they made.
There's some additional restrictions on what's available on the practice table that are the official ones. There's no dual lock models, so I'd read the season standards manual to fully
Only
understand
the
that.
lock models.
Yeah, only dual lock, no free
So
flow.
like no loose pieces, those are really hard to keep at the table. So like if you have,
For practice tables. So
Yeah.
there's, all that's in that manual that's on our website.
For junior.
That was for First Lego League only.
Okay.
yeah.
That was not for this program.
Bring a table for junior?
No, you'll get a table. Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
It's your munchie.
Nobody's asking questions and I'm hungry. So, all right, well, if there's no other questions, then I guess we're done. So, thank you for coming.